He only does it to be tall as me.
This is my video update on this Saturday afternoon, May the 17th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with the Istanbul talks, which concluded yesterday. Not very long discussions for these types of negotiations. Usually these types of talks, they can last many, many hours, sometimes many days. But this one lasted, from what I understand, a couple of hours. And that was it. At least the talks between Russia and Ukraine, mediated by Turkey, was just a couple of hours. And there was a lot of Ukraine leaks, the Ukrainian side. They were leaking all kinds of information as to what was discussed, making Russia look bad, making it seem as if the Russian demands were a shock and a surprise, and they were just too tough and too hard line. And I waited for the Russians to come out and give a statement as to what was agreed on during these talks, because the Ukraine side leaking to the media about the results, well, not too much trust in what the Ukraine side was telling the media, because their goal in all of this is to try and sabotage these negotiations. But the Russians came out with a statement. The chief negotiator, Medinski, he said that the talks went well. That was his statement. They went fairly well. The big agreement, and this is a huge deal, is that 1,000 prisoners on each side will be exchanged. This is a massive win for both sides, for Russia and for Ukraine. 1,000 prisoners being exchanged for Putin, for Russia, the Russian government, for the Russian people. This is a big win for the Ukrainian people. This is a big win. Medinski also said that each side will prepare their ceasefire roadmap. Russians will prepare a ceasefire roadmap, how they view a ceasefire, how to get to a ceasefire. Ukraine will do the same. I think we pretty much know how each side will construct their roadmap. And then they're going to meet again, to talk again. And that was pretty much the agreement that was reached. There are reports saying that the Ukraine side discussed with the Russian side via an interpreter. Ukraine brought an interpreter from Ukrainian to Russian and Russian to Ukrainian. Of course, everyone at that negotiating table on the Ukrainian side speaks fluent Russian, and most of them, from my understanding of things, they speak Russian to each other. As they're having meetings in the government behind closed doors, they all speak Russian. They do not speak Ukrainian, but in public, they feel like they have to make it seem as if Ukrainian is going to be the language that they use. It's all optics. It's all optics and spin for all of these guys. So they brought an interpreter. Okay, all right, whatever. That was it. You know, that was the talks. Peskov put out a statement today saying that Russia is going to be preparing their ceasefire outline. He said Russia is taking this very seriously, and they're going to prepare the roadmap and the outline for how to achieve a long-lasting peace, how to get to a ceasefire, and how to address the root causes. The Russian chief negotiator, Medinski, up here is the highway we need to cross. The chief negotiator, he came out with a statement saying that this conflict could have been avoided 3 years ago. Keep in mind, he was there. He was the chief negotiator during the 2022 Istanbul talks. Actually, the talks that took place in Belarus and in Istanbul. He said that the Ukraine conflict could have ended in weeks, Russia's top negotiator. The West's interference in other nations' affairs has already brought grave consequences to Europe, Vladimir Medinski has said. He also said, and I quote, "We don't want war, but we are ready to fight for a year, 2, 3, as long as it takes. We fought with Sweden for 21 years. How long are you ready to fight?" Allegedly, this is what he told the Ukrainian side, and I believe this because Margarita Simion, the head of RT, she actually confirmed this quote from Medinski, so I imagine that's what he told the Ukrainian side. As long as it takes. That's what he said, as long as it takes. All right. Someone's throwing away some books. Russian books. Someone's throwing away Russian books. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, this could have been avoided. Absolutely, this could have been avoided in 2022. Let's not forget what Russia's goal was in 2022. Their goal with the beginning of the SMO, the first weeks of the SMO, was not to capture Kiev. It was not to overthrow the Zelensky regime. All of that is nonsense. That is Mark Milley, Biden administration spin. What Putin was going for in the first couple of weeks of the SMO, and what he succeeded in doing up to a point, is that he wanted to get Ukraine, Zelensky, to the negotiating table and to agree to no NATO for Ukraine. That's what he wanted to do. And to agree to other things as well that were outlined in the agreement that they came up with in Istanbul in 2022. But basically, Putin's main goal was to take NATO for Ukraine off the table and to begin negotiations, and then to come to an agreement, a long-term agreement with Ukraine. That was the goal of the first couple of weeks of the SMO, and Putin achieved that. He got Zelensky to the negotiating table. Remember when Putin launched the special military operation, Zelensky was very scared. He was hiding in a bunker, and then he called Naftali Bennett, and he begged Bennett to call Putin and to make sure that Putin is not going to get him. And Bennett said he called Putin, and Putin said, "Don't worry, I'm not going to take Zelensky out." And Bennett gave his assurances to Zelensky, and then Zelensky went out to the streets of Kiev, and he started talking tough and all of this stuff. But we even have Naftali Bennett, who has said what was going on in the beginning weeks of the special military operation, who has revealed everything that was going on during the first couple of weeks. And then Boris came to Kiev, and he ruined everything. We know the story. They had an agreement, and then Boris came, and and the collective West, the Biden administration, they scrapped that agreement as a goodwill gesture. The Russian military removed their forces from wherever they were located in and around Kiev, also around Odessa as well. So they removed all of their forces as a goodwill gesture so that they can get Ukraine to build trust with the negotiating team, with the Europeans. The Europeans actually asked Russia as a goodwill gesture as well, can you just remove your forces? We'll sign the agreements, we'll get the agreements signed, and we'll end this conflict very quickly. So that's what Medinski was referring to when he said this could have ended in just a couple of weeks. And then we have the big quote that a lot of people are talking about, which is that Medinski and the Russian side, they actually told the Ukrainian side that if they don't get to an agreement this time around, then the 4 regions will become 5. That is what many outlets were running with when the talks concluded. And that's not really what the Russians said. Once again, according to Margarita Simonian, this is what she posted on X. Story has been making rounds that Ukrainians were outraged when Russia negotiators said that Ukrainian soldiers must leave the 4 new Russian regions as part of the ceasefire, to which the Moscow delegation replied, next time it will be 5. Now our reporter in Istanbul got to ask the Russian side how it really went down. We didn't say 5, we said 8. Everyone is talking about this quote, which is part of the Russian terms, a very important part of the Russian terms, perhaps the foundation, along with no NATO, leaving the 4 territories in their entirety is part of the foundation of Putin's June 2024 root causes. I guess someone that watches the show. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, yeah, so Russia, according to the early reports, had told Ukraine that if we don't get to a ceasefire this time around, one of the requirements to get to a ceasefire, one of the requirements to make progress is that, according to the June 2024 terms, that's 11 months ago, according to those terms that Vladimir Putin laid out in his speech at the Foreign Ministry, it's on video, it's on YouTube, it's translated. We have the speech in its entirety. According to that speech and according to those terms, Ukraine needs to leave those territories, the 4 territories, in their entirety. And the Ukraine delegation was outraged. They were outraged at these terms. Where did these terms come from? I can't believe that this is what the Russian team is telling us. All of a sudden, they're telling us that we have to leave the 4 regions. Those terms have been out there for 11 months. 11 months. We're going on 12 months. So anyway, it was the shock and outrage. But it wasn't really, next time there's going to be 5. The quote, according to Margarita Simonian, according to her sources, was that the Russian delegation said, next time it's going to be 8. We didn't say 5, we said 8. So if you don't agree to root causes June 2024 Istanbul plus, then the 4 is going to become 8. I actually said this 2 weeks ago, referencing a quote from Arestovich. That's what Arestovich said in an interview 2 weeks ago. He said that we should, as Ukraine, as the Zelensky regime, we should absolutely take Putin's June 2024 deal. We should take it because we're talking about 4 regions. And Arestovich said those 4 are going to turn into 6. And then those 6 are going to turn into 8. And here we are, 2 weeks later in Istanbul, and the Russian side is pretty much saying the exact same things. Same thing. They skipped the 6. They just went straight to 8. They said the 4 is going to become 8. Anyway, that's the quote that a lot of people are talking about from these negotiations. The reaction from the collective West is as you probably expect, right? They're outraged. They're disappointed. Merz is disappointed at the talks. Stammer said Russia's terms are unacceptable. Says 008. Keir Stammer. Unacceptable. Bloomberg is saying that Russia made sweeping demands in Istanbul, sweeping demands. And the Daily Mail is shocked that Russia is demanding more land. Absolutely shocked. Where did this request come from? Out of the blue. Out of the blue. Out of the blue, the Russians decided, you know what? The 4 oblasts in their entirety. Of course, most people who have been following the conflict in Ukraine, the people that aren't acting and lying and playing it dumb or just delusional, they know exactly what Russia's terms were in June of 2024. They know the terms that have been made public for almost a year. This is Zuzu's for sale, if anyone is interested. So a lot of this shock and disappointment and unacceptable, and I can't believe what the Russians came up with. Where did they think of these terms? Where did these terms come from? It's acting, it's theater, it's ignorance, it's delusion. It's not listening to Russia. They never listen to anything that Russia says. They never report on anything that Russia says. They never listen to what Putin says. They never report on anything that Putin says during a speech or a statement. They never analyze his speeches or statements. Nope. They never talk to the Russians or take what the Russians say seriously. And now all of a sudden, the 4 regions is shocking. It's shocking. So we have the photo of Zelensky, who's in this photo. Zelensky, Stammer, Macron, Merz, Tusk, Donald Tusk. Yes, they're sitting in Albania. And this photo is of the 4 leaders, the 4+1. This is another 4+1 photo. 4 leaders calling up Trump, the 4+1. And they're briefing the US president, trying to figure out what's our next move, because you know what this photo is selling us? Unity, the unity of the collective West. That is what this photo is trying to sell us. Europe, Ukraine, the UK, the United States, they're in it together forever, united against Russia. And then we have the photo from Albania with Zelensky, Ursula, and Costa. All smiles in Albania. Just got to make sure that when you take those photos, that you take them from the waist up, according to Zelensky's requirements. Make sure you take them from the waist up. Make sure you position Zelensky properly when he's next to other world leaders, and make sure that the photos cannot be turned into memes. So it looks like the photographer might have done his or her job in this photo. Zelensky spoke in Albania. This is all taking place at the European Political Community Summit. I think yesterday, the EPC, I called it the ECP, the European Clown Posse, or the European Clown Party. But it's actually the EPC. So we're going to have to change the name of this event in Albania to the European Posse clown show? No, we can't say clown show. That would make it the EPCS. Well, it is the European Political Community Summit, I guess is the full name. So I guess we can't call it the EPCS. We can call it the European Posse Clown Summit. Okay, yeah, or a Posse Clown Show. Okay, so anyway, Zelensky, he spoke at this event. The keynote speaker, he said, actually he posted this on X as well. He said, I addressed the European Political Community Summit. This week we had a real chance to move forward, ending the war. If only Putin hadn't been afraid to come to Turkey. I was there, ready for a direct meeting with him to resolve all key issues. He didn't agree to anything. That's right. I was in Istanbul. No, wait. I was in Ankara for a couple of hours. I flew in, I met with Erdogan, and I left. But I was there in Turkey, not Istanbul, but in Ankara, ready to meet with Putin. If only Putin was not afraid to come to Turkey. Yep, Zelensky, the brave, the courageous Zelensky, traveling to Turkey, not Istanbul, to Ankara, so that he can meet with Putin in Istanbul. He traveled to Ankara so that he can have a showdown with Putin in Istanbul. But Putin was too afraid to show up. And he wanted the European community to know this. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs. and he, her, and other pronouns of the European political community. I am here to tell you that I fly to Ankara. I ready to meet Putin in Istanbul. But Putin, you see, he chicken. He not meet me in Turkey. I there waiting for Putin and he chicken. I'm bigger, stronger man. Now give me money and give me weapons. And give me sanctions. We must have sanctions. Hey, Podolyak, we now asking for sanctions? Yes, Mr. President, we're asking for sanctions. Bone-crushing sanctions. Okay, Podolyak, but how will sanctions buy me another home? I don't understand how these sanctions things work. But anyway, we must have bone-crushing sanctions. People of Europe. So that's Zelensky in Albania. In Albania. Anything to get out of Kiev, man. Anything to not be in Kiev. So Trump, he gave an interview to Fox News, to the bear, Brett Baer. And Trump, well, he said, as always, many interesting things. many interesting things. Who is briefing Trump? Who is briefing Trump with the information that he is repeating? Because man, did he say a lot of whoppers. Who is briefing him? Is it Tulsi Gabbard? Is it somebody else? I don't know, but he needs to be briefed a bit better. He needs to be informed a bit better. Anyway, what did Trump tell Brett Baer? Trump said that, well, he repeated the Mark Milley propaganda story, the fairy tale about how Russia was going to take Kiev in 1 week. He said in 1 week, Russia was trying to take Kiev, but then their tanks got stuck in the mud. They got stuck in the mud, he said. And yeah, didn't work out for Putin. And now Putin wants a way out of this debacle, right? Because the tanks got stuck in the mud because Putin was trying to take Kiev in 1 week or 3 days or 5 days or 3 hours, whichever version you go with. But he was trying to take Kiev, and the tanks stuck in the mud, and now he's being bogged down for 3 years. And so Trump is providing Putin with an off-ramp to get out of this mess. That's what he told Brett Baer. He says, I really think that Putin wants out of this, and I'm going to give him that off-ramp. How kind of Trump. He called Milley a loser. Many times he's called Milley a loser, and now Trump is repeating everything that Milley came up with in order to spin the conflict in Ukraine, in order to keep the collective West invested in Ukraine. That is why Milley came up with the 3 days to capture Kiev, and Russia couldn't do it narrative, because it was very important to paint the picture of a Russian military that was on its back foot and was losing, and therefore if we just continue to pump weapons and money to the Green Goblin, then we're going to defeat Russia and we're going to get regime change. That's why Milley came up with the whole 3-day narrative. I explained earlier in the video what the real purpose of the start of the special military operation was. I won't repeat it. But the reason that Milley spun the fairy tale is because it was important to get the money pumping into Project Ukraine, with the fantasy that Ukraine, if it got enough money and weapons, would defeat the Russian military. But Trump was repeating this. So he was telling Bret Baier that is what happened during the first couple of weeks, and now I'm going to give Putin an off-ramp. And then Trump threatened bone-crushing sanctions on Russia. He said if we can't get to a ceasefire or to some sort of an agreement, then we're looking at bone-crushing sanctions. Listening to Lindsey Graham, bone-crushing sanctions there. And what else did Trump say? He also said that the Russian economy is in big trouble. So when he puts together these bone-crushing sanctions, well, then the Russian economy is just going to implode, because tatters, the oil price, he said, is low. He's going to lower the oil price even further, and the Russian economy is going to collapse. So he's making a whole bunch of threats. And then he said, I like this one. I like this latest spin. I really like this latest spin. He said that Putin did not go to Istanbul because Trump said he wasn't going to go to Istanbul. And that's why Putin did not go to Istanbul. And then Trump said that only he and Putin can solve the conflict in Ukraine. So, I went back. How are we doing on time? Yeah, we're doing all right. So I went back and reread and listened to, I read the transcript, reread the transcript, listened to Putin's speech that he gave on Saturday night. And you know what? I've been reporting this thing all wrong. Yeah, I've been reporting this thing all wrong. Putin, in his speech that he gave Saturday night, actually did say that he is going to go to Istanbul if Trump goes to Istanbul. Putin actually said that. He said, I will travel to Istanbul, but only if Trump decides to go to Istanbul. And he said, if Trump doesn't go to Istanbul, he said, then I'm not going to go to Istanbul. He said that in his speech. It's tucked away in that speech. It's hidden away in that speech. But if you listen very, very carefully, you'll hear Putin say that. So, yeah, that's right. That is right. What else? What else did he say? He talked about Syria, actually. He said that he lifted the sanctions on Syria because MBS asked him to. So that's why he lifted the Caesar sanctions, the very harsh sanctions on Syria, al-Jilani, HTS al-Qaeda government, the rulers, if you want to call them a government, the rulers of Syria, is because MBS asked him to. So that was basically the interview that Putin gave to that Trump gave to Bret Baier. So the Telegraph, they're panicking over the possibility of a Trump-Putin meeting. The Telegraph has an article with the title, "Trump meeting Putin is Ukraine's worst nightmare. Kiev fears a peace deal stitch-up if the two leaders meet, but the U.S. claims it is the only way to achieve a breakthrough. So what the Telegraph is worried about, what they're revealing in this article, because this article is revealing all of our reporting, my reporting, Alexander's reporting, the reporting that we've done on the Duran, it's just basically confirming everything that we've been reporting on, which is that the main goal of the Europeans, the UK and Ukraine, the main goal in all of this that has been unfolding over the past couple of weeks was to get the United States to join the Europeans in sanctions against Russia, because once the United States started sanctioning Russia, then that meant that the United States was once again fully invested and bogged down in Project Ukraine. And their greatest fear is that Trump is going to sit down with Putin, and all of the misinformation that I just talked about that Trump was repeating in this interview with Bret Baier, all of this information will be corrected by Putin once the two of them sit down, just the two of them, without Europeans, without Zelensky. Putin will set Trump straight. He'll tell him how it really is, what's really going on, what the goals were in the beginning of the special military operation, what the terms are for Russia going forward, June 2024, the true military situation, everything. They're afraid that Putin is basically going to tell Trump the truth. And once Putin tells Trump the truth, they're very, very afraid that that Trump is going to sign off on Istanbul Plus. And that is going to be a fait accompli presented to Zelensky and the collective West. So that's their big worry. That is what the Telegraph is saying in this article. We have a lot of elections taking place tomorrow, everybody. A whole lot of elections that are taking place. Tomorrow, Sunday, we got elections in Portugal. The government in Portugal has only been around, I believe, for 1 year, but we have snap elections taking place because the current government under Prime Minister Luis Montenegro, they got caught up in a scandal and they had to call snap elections. From my understanding of things, his family, the Prime Minister's family, had a company that was involved in data, in data collection. So they had some sort of data protection consultancy, data collection, and the Prime Minister's family had this company, and this is a conflict of interest. And now they have to call snap elections, but it does look like he will win again, though he won last year with a very small, with a very small majority. Not even he couldn't even get a majority. He had to put together, from what I understand, a coalition. But it looks like he's going to just squeak out a first place again in these elections, and he's going to have to form a coalition again. And the populist leader of the Chega party, I believe Ventura, he fell ill to a stomach virus. And let's go into the shade. And he was unable to campaign during the last couple of days. Crazy stuff happening in Portugal. I hope I got all of that right. But you see what I was saying yesterday? What did I say yesterday in my walk and talk, where I was talking about how the political class love to have these events, love to do these summits because they have business dealings and all kinds of stuff, right? And here you have the family of the Prime Minister of Portugal who has companies, his family has companies that do all kinds of consultancy and data protection and stuff like that. So yeah, that's how things work with the globalist political elite. They have all kinds of businesses, man. They have all kinds of businesses. Their family has businesses. Their cousins have businesses. Their best friends have businesses. Yep. Anyway, that is what's going on in Portugal. We have elections in Poland, the first round, I believe, of presidential elections. So Duda is done. Duda has served 2 terms. The da is over. No more Duda. No more hugging Zelensky. Oh no, I won't be able to smell that Zelensky number 5. Come here, Volodymyr. Yeah, no more. No more Zelensky number 5 for Andrzej Duda. And Duda was acting as a bit of, let's say, a counterweight to Tusk, because Duda was considered part of the Populist Party, right? And Tusk is considered the globalist. And in these presidential elections, if you go by the polling, it is expected that the globalist supporter of Tusk is going to be president. And this would mean that Tusk will have accomplished the defeat of populism and patriotism in Poland. He will have turned the entirety of the Polish government into a globalist government. And so Tusk is getting a lot of praise from the globalist collective West. Mainstream media. We'll see what happens in Poland. I do believe this is the first round, so we will see what the results are. And finally, we have the big elections tomorrow, the second round of the elections in Romania. And Simion is expected to win, but the opposition, which is also the globalist supported opposition, the current mayor of Bucharest, he, what's the guy's name? Lieutenant Dan. That's the guy's last name is Dan. Nicosur, I believe. Nicosur Dan. But I just call him Lieutenant Dan. He's the opposition. He's the globalist guy. And the polls that are coming out, once again, from the collective West sources are that Simion's lead is just 3 points. If you believe these polls, I don't believe these polls, but we are getting early voting from Moldova, which is showing that they are coming out big time in support of Lieutenant Dan. That's right. Moldova and France, actually, because Simion, he is saying that Macron and the French embassy in Bucharest is up to all kinds of trickery. They're trying to rig the elections in Romania, and he is saying that something strange is happening in Moldova. The allegations come as early turnout among Romanians voting in Moldova is nearly 3 times the level of the comparable period in the first round on May 4th, according to data from the Romanian Permanent Electoral Authority. So something strange is happening in Romania. Something very strange is going on. Anyway, let's get to some clown worlds, and we can wrap this video up. How are we doing on time here? Oh my God. Yeah, I got to really wrap this up. So we'll do a clown world connected to Albania. We'll talk about Albania, the ECP or the EPC summit, the Clown Posse Summit in Albania. And the leaders were greeted with an AI-generated video of the world leaders as shrunken babies. This was so cringe, I can't even explain how cringe this welcome video was. And the little babies were saying, "Welcome to Albania." And they were shrunken versions of the world leaders, shrunken versions of Macron, of Ursula, of Maloney, of Merz. It was so cringe, man. So cringe. What is wrong with the European leaders, man? What is wrong with these people? Maloney liked it. She liked it. Italy's Giorgia Meloni thanked the organizers for making, this is a direct quote, for making me feel very young again. That's right. Maloney said, thank you to the organizers for making me feel like a baby. An AI generated baby. Thank you so much, organizers in Albania. Very cringe video. Very, very weird, very strange, very bizarre. I did not like it. I did not like that video. Ursula, she said during the summit, in recent years, we have talked a lot about the need for Europe to wake up. Today, Europe is awake, wide awake. And while Russia has left Europe, the European political community is united to preserve peace on our continent. That's right, because Europe is an idea. It's an idea. It's not a geography. It's not borders or boundaries. It's an idea, according to Ursula. Anybody can be in Europe or be European. Canada can be European. Australia can be European. Ukraine, Moldova, Cyprus, anybody, anywhere. The United States under Biden, anybody can be European. It's just an idea. And Russia has now left the idea of Europe, and Europe is wide awake, ready for new countries to join the idea of Europe, the religion of Europe. That's what it is. It's a religion. Ursula. All right, I think I will end the video there. By the way, from this Albania summit, we are getting reports that Europe is indeed looking to place sanctions on Nord Stream. Nord Stream, okay. Let's not investigate it. Let's not get to the bottom of what happened. Let's place sanctions on it instead. All right, that's what we'll do. So they're going to place sanctions on Nord Stream. Obviously, they're afraid that the US and Russia is going to come to some sort of a deal with whatever's left of Nord Stream. And so they want to preempt some sort of a business deal between Russia and the United States. And they're also looking at sanctions inspired by Lindsey Graham, the Europeans said. They've been inspired by the 500% bone-crushing secondary sanctions that Lindsey Graham is talking up. They feel very inspired, and so they're going to place similar sanctions on Russia because the 17 sanctions packages have worked out so well for Europe. Anyway, that is the video. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch like what I'm wearing in this video update. Take care. I will see everybody tomorrow.